I want to welcome you all to our first Leadershop coming out of Computer Services. We're going to be talking about information security, best practices on helping us protect information security. So first is, can anybody tell me what information security is? Danny.
It's an effort to keep private information of students, staff, and everybody.
That's pretty good. That was better than it's securing information, which is the answer I would have gave. But information security is basically about CIA, protecting the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of information. Now that's a big area, a big topic to cover. So we're going to be focusing on confidentiality. This is the part of information security that can get you in real trouble if it gets out. Student data lost out there can result in lawsuits and a big cost for the college. Now, even confidentiality of our information is a huge topic. So we're going to try and tailor it down to an EAC, kind of focused and tailored on the culture of technology at EAC and what we can do here within an hour's worth of education to make a big difference. You can kind of consider this course an introduction to further training on information security or future leaderships. We've got a bunch of defenses in place right now. We've got firewalls, we've got antivirus software, we've got anti-malware software, we have intrusion protection services running, but we're still not fully protected. Does anybody know what area in which we haven't devoted a lot of expense and time to improve? Outside sources? I mean, we're in a room full of our biggest vulnerabilities, which is all of us. As hardware and software has gotten better at protecting, the hackers have decided instead to attack the weaker part, which is the human. Us as humans can be hacked. You know, we're basically hardware, software running in our brain, and we respond to different attacks just like a computer. So they use social engineering to kind of attack us. And so this is the beginning of a kind of user awareness program to make us all aware and what we can do, best practices to protect us. And instead of being the weakest part of EAC's protection of our information, we become the best part. Now, we'll be delving into a few areas that will get us the best bang for our buck in this time to help you educate all of you to do, a better job of protecting our data. I'm not so much concerned with protecting all data. I don't need to protect the fact that I've got an exterminator coming in at noon to spray my house. Don't need to protect information of a grocery list that I have in an Excel spreadsheet. We need to protect confidential and sensitive information, which goes back to confidentiality. And within that, PII. Does anybody know what PII stands for when it comes to information security? EXA? Where's EXA?
Right here.
We just.
You
got it. Personal identifiable information. So this is information that hackers could use to impersonate you and open a credit card account for you, or a bank account, or trick somebody into giving them access to one of your accounts. So what kind of information am I talking about? Social Security number is a big one. What else?
Birthday.
Birthday, yeah, full birth date.
Residence maybe?
Yep, residence, address, phone numbers, your mother's maiden name, your third grade teacher, maybe. Any of the things that you see at like security questions to reset your account. They're like, hey, pick these, what was your first pet's name? Oh, it was Rover. And then on your Facebook page, you've put, hey, my first dog was Rover. A lot of times we give this information away. In our systems, we want to protect it and keep it secure. So we'll be talking about this in a few areas, and I'll be handing off the next section to Craig.
All right. So as we thought about how to present this information, one of the things that we considered was how having an EAC-owned computer is similar to maybe renting a vehicle or maybe checking out one of the fleet vehicles that we have here in our maintenance department. So I actually called Timely, and I can't lie to you because she's right here now, but to find out what the process was for doing that. And one of the first things that she told me is that you can't check out one of the EAC maintenance vehicles for personal use. And I was kind of surprised by that. I mean, they have 15 passenger vans, really nice vans. If I wanted to take my family to Disneyland or something, that'd be perfect for it. But no, that's the policy. You can't use it for personal use. So if we needed to check it out for business use. So let's say we want to go to a technology symposium with the techs here in computer services. That would be an appropriate usage of it, right?
Correct.
Okay, so then we'd have to go through a process in order to still get the van. All right, we'd have to fill out a travel requisition form. Tom would have to approve that travel. His boss, Tim, would have to approve that travel, and then the district office would have to approve it. And if we receive all those approvals and everything is correct, then we can be given the keys and get a gas card and be able to use the vehicle. So as we go through some of the best practices today, we're gonna have a little comparison to using the vehicle, and hopefully that'll make it a little entertaining as we go through the process, and maybe a little memorable for us as well. So in this particular example, we're going to use the 15-passenger van to go to a symposium in Yuma. Anyone ever made the drive from Thatcher to Yuma? That is a long drive, isn't it, Danny? We did it on a bus. And that's a long drive. Well, because it's such a long drive, there's not a whole lot to do. I'm thinking it might be a good idea if we take the passenger van and put like a Sirius radio in it, the satellite radio, so we can have music or entertainment, whatever kind we want, all the way from here to Yuma. How would that fly?
Would you like maintenance department to do it, or you prefer?
Well, if well, that's what I was going to say. We'd probably ask you guys to do it first, and if you said no and I did it anyway, I'd probably get in trouble, wouldn't I?
Probably.
Okay. So what we're talking about is modifying EAC equipment, in this case, the van. Now, how does that compare to our computers? Do we ever modify our computers? How might we modify our computers?
Oh, just download something.
Download something. We all have that itchy trigger finger, right? I want to download something. How else might we modify our computers? Any thoughts?
Buy some software to put on it.
Okay. These are good examples, perfect examples. And in some cases, if we download software, we might think it's a legitimate software. It might describe something that we need, but it may also contain some type of malware with it. And there's all sorts of malware. You guys have probably heard about it. You may have received it on your own computers at some point. But one type is spyware. Spyware will just kind of monitor what you're doing. Okay. Another type is malware. Malware may not only monitor what you're doing, but it may try to gather some information, personal information, from your computer. There are also viruses, and viruses will usually stop things from working. It may stop your antivirus from working. It might stop your Word from working, your Office programs, for example. And then there's also ransomware. And ransomware is kind of interesting, and it's kind of a newer thing, but it'll actually go in and it'll encrypt certain types of files. Okay, so it might look for documents or pictures, things that it suspects might be important to you, and encrypts them in a way that you can't access them. And then the only way that they say you can get that information back is to contact them, and they'll provide some way to contact them and pay them, and then they'll give you an encryption key so you can unlock your files. Okay, so these are different types of malicious software that are out there that can attack us, and these are the types of things that we're trying to prevent against. So if we can avoid just randomly downloading things, then that certainly helps us and helps to protect our assets and the information that we have here. If there is an incident, we want to report it to computer services. And we might talk about this a little bit later, but just like if you're in a car accident, well, maybe not just like if you're in a car accident, because sometimes those don't get reported, right? But it doesn't mean that you're a bad person, and it doesn't even mean that it's your fault if you're in an accident. Sometimes you didn't necessarily do anything wrong, right? You could be obeying all the laws. You could be doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing and still being involved in an accident. Malware can be the same. You can be doing everything right, and still there's something that gets through that wasn't your fault. But either way, whether you did something or not, report it so that we can get it cleaned up, so that we can protect our systems. Any questions on that? Okay, let's talk about passwords, or what we call passphrases now here. The password or the passphrase is very much like the key to our van, right? So let's have a discussion just for a minute. When is it okay to share our passphrase with someone? Never. Man, these guys are too smart. Thought that was going to be a trick question. Does it happen? So if it's never okay, why does it happen?
Because of the humanness of us.
The humanness. And we trust. I have people all the time who say, as a matter of fact, we had someone in our office this morning and they had to put their password in for their Wi-Fi. And I said, I'll turn around while you're doing your password. Oh, that's okay. I don't care if you know my password. You need to care. Okay, don't trust anybody. I know I'm a good-looking guy. I look very trustworthy. You can't trust anybody. Okay, and if you think about it like the keys to the van, if we're the ones that have been given the responsibility for that van and given the keys to it, who would we give the keys to? Anyone?
You'd be amazed.
It happens.
Human nature.
It happens, right? But if you really think about it, we're the ones responsible for those keys. Okay, we're the ones responsible for our passphrases and anything that is done with our accounts. So we want to be very careful about protecting them. Now, we don't always just flat out give it to someone. Sometimes we hide them. Where do we hide our passwords?
On our phones.
On our phones. Where else?
Under the keyboard.
Boom! Under the keyboard. That's what I was going to say. Where else? In the drawer?
On my notepad.
On the notepad? Anyone ever seen one right here?
Yeah.
Yeah. It happens. We need to protect those passwords, okay? And try to refrain from putting them in any of those places. There have been a couple occasions where people say to us, well, my manager needs to have my password so that they can get into my computer for certain things. If you feel like you're in a situation like that, come talk to computer services. Let's see if we can find another solution rather than putting it in the drawer or under the keyboard. Okay. Very often there's another way that we can go about that manager getting to the information that they need to instead of logging in as you. They can do it as themselves. Okay. Any questions on that area? Yes, John.
Craig, if you have passwords and anymore they're like 12 characters long and I can't remember any of mine, do you have a password vault or something that you would recommend that we keep these passwords in that
Yes.
is safe?
Yes, and actually Tom sent out something in the communicator a couple of years ago, and probably should make a knowledge base article out of that.
It's in the knowledge
It's in
base.
the knowledge base as well.
You can use a software-based one, and sometimes it's okay. You can write it down and have your pad. Just make sure it's locked up like you would do your car keys. You wouldn't leave your car keys sitting on a desk someplace. Lock them into a drawer, keep them locked up. There's several choices for software that can encrypt your passwords, or a service like LastPass, or there's no shortage of them that you can use for that purpose. And you can call computer services and we'll ask you a few questions, mainly what you're doing, and then we can get with you recommending something.
So this next one, after we arrive at our destination, we're going to get to wherever it is we're going, we're going to park the van and turn it off, right? Likewise, with our computers, at the end of the day, we need to turn them off. There's a lot of reasons for this. And one that's important is that it gives the opportunity for the computers to restart all the services when it starts up the next morning. But there's one day when we don't turn it off. What day is that? Tuesday. Tuesday. Man.
That's awesome.
This is an A+ class. And why do we leave it on Tuesdays? Backups and updates. Now, not everybody gets backups, okay? So you need to be aware whether or not you're getting backups and as to whether or not it's necessary for you to be getting backups. But everybody gets updates, okay? And I recently went to a security training where Intel Security provided some information from Gartner. And they said that 90% of all successful malware attacks are exploiting available patches that have not yet been applied. So 90%, that's a real high percentage. So that puts a lot of responsibility on us as a computer services department to make sure that those patches that are available here on our network. But we need your help.
Can you repeat that in words that we can understand?
Okay, here's the words that you can understand. Our van is not working.
Available patch.
Okay, our van is not working because the tire's off of it. All right, we're going to patch the tire and fix the tire. Now the tire's ready to go, but the van still can't work until we put the tire back on the van. Okay, so there are things that are being exploited by other people that are known problems with some of our programs, whether it's Windows or Office. Okay, they're known problems. And Microsoft has fixed those. But until they're put on the computer, there's a possibility of it being exploited. Okay? So it puts a lot of responsibility on us to make sure that those fixes are available to be put on. But if everybody doesn't leave their computer on Tuesday night, then those fixes can't be applied, can't be put back on.
So those 90% of bad guys can get you.
Right, right. Any questions on that? Okay. One last thing, and then we'll turn it back over to Tom here. So our trip is over. We've got the van back at my place, and don't have to turn it in till Monday. It's Friday. I've got a little project at my house where I need to clean out my garage. So I think what I'd like to do, because it's looking a little cloudy, I'm going to back the van up. I'm going to take all my photo albums, my tax records, my family videos out of the garage. I'm going to put them in the van and leave it there. And then I'm going to work on cleaning the garage. So I know this sounds a little strange to take all those types of personal items and put them in the school van, but do we do that with our computers? What could go wrong with keeping personal files on your work computer?
Personal information is on it.
Personal information is on it, absolutely. What else might go wrong? Computer can die. That's happened here, hasn't it? Hard drives have died.
Pictures can be lost.
Yes. And those pictures can be lost. Just like, you know, if lightning hit that van with all my stuff in it and that van's gone, who's going to recover those pictures and tax records for me?
Maintenance.
Can you guys do that?
But the good thing is we do have a secure issue that we have a key. You can return that van Friday night, so you won't have those. Over the weekend.
See?
You do not have to wait until Monday morning.
I told you I couldn't get away with anything with too many here. All right. So, you know, and what if it's not something like the hard drive dying? What if, hey, we just won the lottery and we just finished telling administration what we really think about certain things? Do you think we're going to get that computer back? What if we had a rough night and we got arrested? Maybe it's something that EAC doesn't want us to work here anymore. For whatever reason, if we're not working here any longer, what happens to your files?
Never get them back.
Yeah. You know, when we get a computer that comes in, we usually have a policy of holding on to it for a certain amount of time. And then it has to go back into circulation when someone else has it. We don't look to see what's on there. We wipe those hard drives, we make them clean for the next person, and we put a fresh image on there. They're gone. Okay, so that just talks to the point that we need to keep, where possible, our personal files off of the EAC computers. And if you're in a situation where maybe you have a laptop and that laptop leaves the campus, one of the things that we are beginning to do is encrypt our laptops so that if it's lost or stolen for some reason and somebody tries to get into that hard drive, they won't be able to. Even if they pull it from the machine, they won't be able to because it'll be encrypted. But again, it's something where we need your help. You know, we don't want to leave it in the car with the doors unlocked and the windows down, or leave it in the car with the doors locked and the windows up. They could be stolen either way. And it's all about protecting that CIS information, that confidential, sensitive information, and not letting it get out into the public. Not putting us in a position where we have to send letters to every student who's ever been here that their information may have been compromised. So Tom will talk a little bit more about CSI and emails.
All right, so Craig just got done talking about really using your EAC computer for EAC business, and then having your personal stuff is really on your computer at home. Let's talk about this in regards to your email. How many people here have a separate email account aside from your EAC.edu one? Great, a lot of you do. What is the advantages?
Ask how many of us use our separate account for.
All right. How many of you use your separate account for personal, all your personal stuff, and your EAC account is only business stuff? So you notice I'm not raising my hand. I myself am in the process of separating that off and pushing it to my Gmail account. And it's amazing how many things I've signed up for. I want to have you guys kind of break into some groups for just a couple minutes and discuss, why is it smart to have that separate personal, private email address away from your EAC business one. So if you just want to turn to your people on your row, I'll give you a couple minutes to come up with your best idea. What's the biggest advantage for that?
I
have 5 email accounts on my phone. Why do you need to have your personal emails on your EAC account?
I'm having to talk just in the rows about why is it good to have a separate email account aside from the EAC purposes? Why is that a good thing for users?
It's getting easier and easier. I understand 5 years ago why you could stop going through our EAC account
Okay, just about another 30 seconds.
3 or 4 before they started giving everybody email until they started allowing email certification.
Yes. And we haven't even given one.
All right. Kind of bring it back together now. See if you guys have hit on some good reasons. I'll go this right here. What do you guys think? Why is it? What's the biggest advantage of having that private email address away from your EAC?
Okay, so just this week, like 2 days ago, I got an email from my son-in-law on my personal email, and it had this really catchy title, like something he wanted to show me. So of course it's my son-in-law, and I opened it. Immediately that hacked my email and sent messages to every single one of my contacts, which again, those contacts got hacked immediately if they opened it. So had my son-in-law had my EAC email, then that would have come to my, and I opened it. Same thing could have happened to all my EAC contacts.
Now, I didn't tell you to say this, right? I didn't meet with you and give you this story. I mean, that's perfect example. It's almost too perfect.
2 days ago.
All right. That's a great thing. So,
Didn't have my EAC email.
insulating EAC, because that's exactly a big point of it, is protecting the EAC account by having that go to the personal account. What about back here? What did you guys come up with? Awesome.
Well, we kept our personal email as our personal email because it is personal. So
That's another second great point on my bullet list is that privacy. I know, that's like I give you scripts, but I mean, that's true. Any emails that come to your EAC.edu account can be requested. It can be subpoenaed. All of that. You're receiving emails that wouldn't be a great idea if everybody knew you were receiving. Maybe there's a few people like that. Danny, you surely have subscribed to some emails that you would be less than happy if it got out, right? Am I right? Thanks, Danny, for backing me up on that. Now, keeping your private stuff private.
I thought this was my personal email.
Well, that's it. What about over here? Did any of the rows come up with something different than those two?
Well, just that you might lose all the information if you leave here.
Exactly, portability. That portability of, exactly like Craig said, you won the Powerball or something happened and you're no longer employed at EAC. You're not going to be able to get all those photos or those correspondences that you had in your EAC account. Not only that, but what about all these other accounts that you've signed up for at Amazon or Apple or Netflix that are using your EAC.edu account? I forgot my password. Hey, reset my password, send the email to my EAC.edu. I no longer have access to that. Great, I got to jump through a few more hoops to do that. So not using that is a great idea. Okay.
Sell your email to everyone and you get spam.
That's exactly right. And that kind of goes towards my next question. Did anybody have anything else different? Or?
We just were going to say you get all kinds of junk mail after that.
You guys are hitting all the right stuff. Because a lot of this leads to my next question is, why is it smart for EAC for all of you to have your own private email addresses? And you guys have kind of come up with those things. It's, you know, better spam blocking because we don't have as many Kohl's ads. You know, the khakis are on sale at Kohl's coming in, and or this is happening, Black Friday's coming up, and we have all these emails that come in. If people don't get them, we get calls saying, hey, I didn't get it, can you allow that through? And the more of those we allow through, the more chances of spam and other things coming through, or emails like this trying to spread malware come through. It also allows you kind of a better insulation of your private and your EAC accounts. And by separating those out, it's like driving the EAC van. You know, you don't want to be texting while you're driving the van. You don't want to be doing something that distracts you. If you're in your personal email account and you're in this mind of, hey, this is my personal stuff, and then when you're in your EAC account, hey, I'm in here for my business-related stuff, you're more focused. Some things that, if you had them combined, would seem plausible, aren't anymore. Hey, why did I get an email on my EAC account saying my FedEx delivery has been delayed, and to click here to see why? I don't receive FedEx on my, my position at EAC, whereas at home, hey, I got FedEx coming. I don't remember what it was, but I love getting packages. Click, malware. So it kind of puts you in that mode of your higher sensitivity on what's going on in that context.
Well, and then you have the capability of sending those that you believe are spam to Derek Tuttle, who can add them to the list of spam.
That's exactly right. And you're going to be more apt to send that with it not being, hey, I know I get a lot of other emails that don't have anything to do with EAC. You know, I'm getting this subscription from this thing and this. You can focus. These are obviously spam. Send them to Derek Tuttle so we can make our anti-spam firewall smarter to block more of those things. The other thing is, it's better for us as an institution for you not to use thomas.thompson@eac.edu on my Facebook or any other accounts, because am I going to, just for the sake of simplicity, maybe use the same password for those accounts that I do for my EAC account? I don't, but I would be tempted to, because the less passwords I have to remember, the easier my life is, right? Those other sites may not be as guarded as ours. And so a hacker could hack into Facebook or other ones. You know, there's a lot of third-party sellers that are specialized in small things, and you go, oh, I'll use my account password, they'll hack those and then use that to hop over to EAC and get into our accounts. So we definitely don't want everybody to use, we don't want anyone to use their EAC account as that account name out there. It's better for you for password resets and such. It's best for us because it reduces how vulnerable we are. Now, not having your personal emails delivered to your EAC account, does that automatically protect you from spammers and hackers? No, they're going to still send stuff to you. You've seen it. You'll get that account that says, hey, the computer department's going to reduce your storage size of your email unless you click here and re-verify your account name. You know, or you might see the other ones which are really broad, which is, hey, I'm the prince in Nigeria, I've got $1 billion, I need your help, or you've won the UK lottery, or anything like that. You've got general attempts, which is phishing. They call it phishing attempts, which are trying to fish. They're trying to see, hey, we're going to throw out this. We don't know what kind of bait the fish likes. We're just going to try and use something here and try and get some kind of return for it. Sometimes they'll have you click something, install malware, or they'll take you to a website and want you to put in your personal information. You have what is called spearfishing, which is similar to what happened here. It wasn't just an email saying, click here. It looked like it came from your son, right?
It did come from my son-in-law.
You know? They can craft it. Email is kind of wide open in that sense, because I can put on an envelope that this came from President Obama, White House. I can put the address as the from and send it out, and it's easy to spoof that from address. It's easy to look on the EC webpage and say, hey, who's somebody that works in records? Okay, this person works in records. Hey, I see they've got this ASU program they're doing. I'm going to send a thing to someone in records. I'll send it to Marta and say, hey, I work for ASU. This 2-year partnership is going to end unless we re-verify some information from your institution. Click here to input that information. I've tailored this email attack to her, and it's totally plausible. Hey, she works in records. She would have the access to this information. Hey, we do have a program with ASU, and there's a sense of urgency. It's going to be canceled unless I do something. Classic spearfishing. They've tailored it just for you. So your common sense, your spider sense isn't going off going, this is weird. This is entirely plausible. In those cases, you have to be defensive the same way you're defensive driving. Hey, the situation doesn't seem right. We need you to be suspicious. Were you expecting that email? Did someone at EAC said, hey, you're going to be accepting this as part of your job. You need to be suspicious. And your biggest defense there is that kind of spider sense. Hey, this looks weird. Call computer services. Derek will look it up on our firewall, and we can see where did it come from. Hey, obviously it didn't come from ASU, or hey, it did come from ASU. Who's the primary person at EAC that deals with the ASU? Find that out and confirm it with them. They'll be, no, this isn't an issue, and it makes us all smarter. Now, another thing when it comes to email, you've got all your business stuff going on your EAC account is CSI, confidential and sensitive information. Why is it a bad idea to email any CSI? Hey, I got the student's social security number, address. I'm going to email it. It's an ASU student. I'm going to email it to the person that works at ASU. Why is that a bad idea to use email for that? Exactly. And that's exactly what happened in a school district, I think in Washington. The person had a list of these names, tons of CSI in it, went to send it to somebody at the college, 3 desks from her, typed it in, and it filled in a Yahoo address of a contact that she used to have. Outlook is great, right? Email programs are great. They try and make it convenient. Fill it in, she sent it off. She realized what she had done and called that person, hey, delete that. And that person said, oh, I don't have that account anymore. I canceled it 2 years ago. She didn't get a reject message. Somebody else had it, and there was really no way to figure out who had it. And that resulted in them having to do credit monitoring and a bunch of other stuff, notifications, and it cost them millions of dollars. So that's your biggest fear, is that too. What about, why is it a bad idea to even email that internally? From EAC, EDU account to another one. Why do you think it's a bad idea to mail CSI that way, email it? I mean, it's the same kind of thing. You could still mistype. Hey, I meant to send it to Craig O'Donnell, and instead it went to Craig, a friend of mine from high school, and now it's out there in the wild still. There's less vulnerability if we're sending it to EAC EDU account to EAC EDU account. Another weakness of email is when you send it across the internet, it's not encrypted. If someone's out there listening on the wire, they can capture packets and then put that together. Hey, if it's just internally, we have less vulnerability. But still, what's another way that gets out just by using your email, even internally? You know, how many people have their email set up on their phones or their iPads? Yeah, I just sent it from me to Craig, but it synced to my phone, and now I've got CSI on my phone, and it's out there, and phones are easy to lose, get stolen. That's why it's a bad idea to ever have that on there. You know, in both cases, this is akin to taking that EAC van and putting a bunch of tax records in the back of it, or a bunch of student transcripts in the back of it, and taking this with us to Yuma. Bad idea. Is that still a bad idea if I just here and I park it down next to the gym? Do I want that information in a van outside where it's not as protected? You want that in a vault, right? So that's a big key. Now, we've talked about how it's advantageous to have your own private email address for your personal purposes. Now, Craig's going to kind of cover some ways with web browsing which kind of reinforces that.
Right. We're going to continue our analogy of having a vehicle here for a little bit. And when we talk about the internet or browsing the internet, Some of you may have heard of the internet also being called the information superhighway, right? Information superhighway. So if we're going to take a trip on a superhighway, not just a regular highway, we want to make sure that our vehicle is working properly, right? So, and Tracy's here, so she can confirm this. She makes me check our car, if we're going to take our own car even, check the oil, make sure we got radiator fluid, make sure our brakes are good, make sure our tires are good. And if we're checking out a EAC van, maintenance is going to do that for us, right? They're going to make sure that that vehicle is in tip-top condition when we take our trip, all right? But who determines where that vehicle goes and how fast it goes and how reckless it goes? We do, right? So if we bring that back to how we browse, for example, if we think about driving on the information superhighway, we want to be a defensive driver, as Tom just mentioned. So if we're surfing on the internet with a browser, we want to be a defensive browser. That's what we'll call it, defensive browser. So to figure out what it means to be a defensive browser, let's talk about what does it mean to be a defensive driver. I think there's a lot of correlations. If you think defensive driver, what do you think? Okay, so be aware of what's around you. Be alert. What else?
Hope your reflexes are good.
Have good reflexes.
Possible scenarios, you know, you see somebody backing out of a driveway or something, you kind of slow down and you watch to make sure they stop.
Right.
To be ready to avoid it.
All right, so you're aware of other things that are taking place. These are good. So let's go with a couple of these. Avoiding distractions. Most of you have probably been on a website, and it could be for completely legitimate purposes, even here at EAC on your computer. Maybe you're doing some research on particular information, maybe something from a federal site, maybe something with a news story related to your area. Could be anything legitimate. As you're reading and doing your research, very often you're going to see along the right-hand side all sorts of ads. You're going to see maybe some little videos going. And if you scroll down on the page, you probably have some similar things at the bottom of the page as well. I consider these things distractions, and I also consider them to be some of the more vulnerable areas on the internet. Very often those ads contain some type of malicious software. They're usually, even on legitimate sites, even on like a Yahoo site, those ads are usually the weakest part of the site. They're actually not controlled by Yahoo. Yahoo gets those ads or allows those ads to be put on their page, okay? But they don't necessarily control, especially if you leave their page and go to wherever that ad is directing you to, okay? So we have to be aware of what else is on the page as we're browsing and what else is going on around us. We need to be in control. Just like we need to be in control of the vehicle, we want to be able to be in control of our browser. And you may have seen phony attempts while you're on a page to get you to go somewhere else or get you to call someone else. You may, for example, you may be on a page and have something, just a window pop up that says, hey, there's a problem with your computer. In order to fix it, you need to call this number. Okay. We've had this here at EAC. We've had people where they were away from campus and working through a hotel Wi-Fi, and something popped up. Hey, there's something wrong with your computer. Call this number. Pick up the phone. Call the number. Hey, we know exactly what's wrong with your computer. Can we remote into it and show you what's wrong with it? They actually let them remote into their computer, and the person started going through log files and showing them all sorts of things and telling them, oh, you have a problem with your IP configuration and your VLAN is not correct, and started talking about some things that they didn't really understand, and then said to them, well, we can fix all this for you for $19.99, just give me your credit card. And at that point, the red flag went up for the person. Nothing prior to it, but at that point, the red flag went up for the person. And they said, you know what, we've got our own IT department. I'm going to have them take a look at it. Hang up. disconnect the person, and then they called us. It happens. We need to be aware of it. It's part of being a defensive browser. Don't allow others to remote into your computer especially if you're off campus, but really never. Now, if somebody with computer services wants to remote into your computer, there's going to be one of two things. We use LogMeIn, and LogMeIn will actually tell you the name of the tech that you're working with, and you're going to be able to see the tech. We also have our employee search on Beacon. Most of you know who the computer service employees are, but if you don't, many of us have our pictures on there, and I think we talked about maybe making sure everybody has their picture on there, right?
Well, quite often if they're going to do that, the employee lets the computer employee lets the person know that I'm going to do this remotely.
Right, and then you also have to give them permission to do it. And so they'll be on the phone with you, but you'll also see that it's LogMeIn Rescue, and it'll say, Craig O'Donnell would like to take over your computer.
Yeah, and you should be suspicious. So if you get a call from somebody and they're saying, hey, whatever, and I need to remote into your computer, I need you to do this, and you're like, I don't know if this person works computer services, or this doesn't sound like it, or I just don't have a good feeling about this, say, I'll give you a call back. What is your number? Get the number. Call computer services and ask us, hey, is somebody trying to remote my computer? Is this something you guys are doing? And that's important for any of this, is they'll represent something, and it's the same way. It doesn't have to be computer related. They could be calling from the financial aid and saying, hey, I'm so-and-so from the state office, and I need you to give me this information. Give me your information, give me your contact stuff, and then you vet it outside of the process and say, okay, this is it, but according to the website, this is their phone number, not this other one. Call that number. So always be suspicious of that, even with our own computer services department. If something doesn't seem quite right, call us directly on the line that you know comes to us.
And that applies for even people being in person. If they come up to you, we learned this a little bit with the Red Flag event that we had a couple of years ago, I think. You know, if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I'm the new guy with computer services, and I need to work on your computer, you can do the same thing. Call 8371, talk to Sandy, hey, is there somebody on your staff named Jerome?
And are they supposed to be here?
Yeah, yes, exactly. And she can confirm that for you. So that particular example was my don't pick up hitchhikers, right, when you're in the company van, right? Don't pick up hitchhikers. But in general, we just need to be alert as defensive browsers. We need to be aware of what's around us and be alert. Don't go to websites that are strange or that are untrusted. Whether you receive something from an email or whether it's from an ad, rather than just clicking on that link, actually go to the website and find that out yourself. Go to the company website and then scroll down from there for the information that you need, where you know it's legitimate. And that'll help to protect you. The last thing on the area with browsers that I wanted to touch on real quick, and some of us may have more than one vehicle. I have more than one vehicle, okay? I want to use my truck, but my truck doesn't work right now. But I would use, if my truck was working, I would use my truck for certain things, maybe hauling off, things that need to go to the dump. Whereas I might use the little car that we have for something where I need better gas mileage, right? Different vehicles for different things. Likewise, there's different browsers that are out there, and some of us may have a browser that we prefer to use, and that's fine if you're using that browser for things that maybe personal research or something even work related that is not on the internet, not on Beacon, not internal. Okay, so if you wanted to use Firefox, Opera, Safari, Chrome, those are okay, and many of you have a different browser already installed on your computer. But when it comes to doing things internally, working on Beacon, or any of the apps related within Beacon, we would ask that you use Internet Explorer. And if you're having some issues with Internet Explorer, we would ask that you contact computer services, because there are, even though we do the updates, there are times where maybe an update may fail and maybe you don't have the latest version of Internet Explorer. But that is the browser of preference for internal apps and for Beacon. Any questions on the browser side?
I have a question about, earlier you said that, if you were out doing your Yahoo, that they would have all the ads on the sides. Are there better ones to use than Yahoo?
Better free email?
Well,
or
not for email, but for just doing
search engines? There are all sorts of ones that are out there. Personally, I like Google because there is nothing other than the search engine when you go to that page. Any others that you might recommend?
DuckDuckGo. They're like an alternative to Google that doesn't capture your search information. You use Google, it's logging your IP number and other information from your computer saying, hey, they searched for these terms, this. They build up a history that they can kind of consolidate and sell to advertisers saying, hey, a lot of people are looking for this. You might want to advertise more that you've got this particular product. So if you're concerned about that, you can use DuckDuckGo. There's a variety of them. Use one that just doesn't have these rotating ads on the side. And Yahoo was one of the ones that we had found that there was an ad in their rotation that was serving up the crypto locker, the virus that would encrypt your files and hold them hostage. And so we've kind of addressed that in part with our Malwarebytes software that we've added onto it. But they're all out there, so you kind of use what's your preference. And if you have any questions about, hey, is there something you recommend for a search engine or even email or something, call computer services and we'll let you know what we would recommend.
What about personal emails? Is there a better one to use versus another, like Hotmail or Gmail?
It really comes down to kind of what Tom was just mentioning as far as do you want them to gather information about what you're doing.
I've got nothing
Google
to hide,
will do that. There are some that you can pay for that will not. But it depends on what you're doing. I use Gmail. I'm not doing anything top secret that I'm worried about on that one. Any other questions? Just one last thing on this subject then, and that is, we do have iPads or smartphones, tablets as well. So if you do need to do some personal browsing, for many of us, that is an alternative to using your EAC computer.
Well, I have a question about that. Now, with the iPad, I do check my EAC mail, email through it. Is there any problem with that?
Only if there's CSI on the email.
Okay.
That's really the key is if we get back to the email thing and talk about not sending CSI through your email whatsoever, then, that really helps out in so many different ways because that's a big area of weakness that bad things can happen quickly.
I have a question on that too. If we have sent something, can we go into our phone and delete that email? And will it save it on our computer or will it delete it from the whole thing?
If you delete that file off of your phone, it gets synced back to your EAC account. So you could delete it off your phone or you could delete it from your email account and it should drop it off of there. If you have any questions regarding that, then come by computer services and we can kind of see to make sure it's hard to tell with so many different kinds of phones and operating systems, but usually it's the kind of thing where it hits my inbox and I'm like, this should not be coming to me in email. I delete it immediately and do my recycle bin on my Outlook and delete the trash. Keep it from syncing over to my phone. Shannon.
One thing that I experienced when I first got my iPad was I was responding to a work email, and for some reason it responded from my personal email, and so now I'm just very cognizant of where the from is coming from. But that's something I didn't even know.
Yeah, well, and it's the same way I found on my calendar, I was like, hey, and it was putting on my Google calendar, not my work calendar. I'm like, hey, oh man, I missed this important appointment. It is that way you kind of consolidate those personal and work accounts, and then you reply, and it's got that default account to reply from, and now somebody's like, why did they reply from this address? Oh well, I'll reply back with more CSI, and now it's gone to the Gmail or Yahoo account or wherever. So if we can just focus on not having that come through your email account, and we know just in discussions that some of that stuff happens. It's really convenient for me to send a student correction to somebody over in records or somebody in counseling or whatever and say, hey, I saw this information wrong, can you fix it? And maybe the student ID number by itself isn't a big deal, but it's got their student ID and their name and part of their birth date. And they call that, what do they call that, Exa, in that presentation? It's like a group of information if it was all on its own. If you only had part of their date of birth, it wouldn't do you good. But now you've...
It was like primary and secondary.
Yeah, but you've got a group of data that now becomes, well, this could be used as a group rather than individually. So a lot of times if the person you're emailing has access to STEMs or whatever, you would just do the student ID number, which in and itself can be CSI, depending on what's in the context of. But if there's processes in which you're sending that stuff back and forth, then let us know so we can work with you on a better, more secure way of doing it.
Okay. So the last area with browsing is really more cloud-based. Sometimes we don't always think of it as internet because it might be something going through an app if we are using an iPad, for example. So there are products like Dropbox or Evernote where we could be putting information on that from our computer so that we can access it from our iPad. Maybe we're teaching in a class later. And that's fine to use, again, as long as we're not putting any CSI on there. So there's not student information that's going to these sites that we no longer have control of. It's very similar to the concept of emailing that information to somebody, because once we've emailed it to them, we no longer have control over it, and we don't know where it's going. And we don't know the vulnerabilities that those cloud-based apps may have. So I think Tom's going to talk a little bit more about file storage for us, and that's just one of them.
Okay, so specifically we're talking documents with CSI, confidential and sensitive information. On your computer, the local storage, the C drive, is that a good place for you to keep CSI? No. Why is that? Why would you not keep CSI on your local computer?
Because everybody has access to that drive.
It's possible, yeah. More than one person can get into that drive. You know, that computer is sitting on your desk. You know, is your desk accessible by multiple people? Could be. So it's kind of sitting there. It's possible somebody could come up and just take your complete computer, take it with them, especially if it's a laptop. And you've got your laptop, you know, at Starbucks or whatever, and you walk off, you walk back, it's gone. That stuff, and oh man, I left it logged in. It's not a good place for CSI. You know, it's kind of like leaving that box full of student records in the back of your car when you go out someplace. What about on a flash drive or an external hard drive? Is that a good place for CSI? What's that?
That's easier to take than take.
It is. I mean, especially a flash drive. Boom, in the pocket go, or flash drive in my pocket, and I go someplace and you lose. It's easier to lose, right? It's even. Yeah, and they die as well. I mean, that's another point. You know, is that your computer or that USB drive? That's the only place where you're keeping this confidential and sensitive information. Only copy the EAC has. No, because now you're kind of getting back to that other part of information security, which is the A of CIA, availability. The availability has gone away. Oh, I can't get that data. It's still an information security problem. What about, like Craig talked, you know, out there in Dropbox or Amazon Cloud or something like that? Is that a good place to keep your CSI? No, I mean, we can't vouch for it. Now there's certain ones that could be provisioned as such and has a higher security, but your usual free ones or low-cost ones that you would be using as an individual, no, it's not, and those can get hacked. You'll see a news story where, hey, for this 40-minute period, Dropbox files were available to everybody, and there's certain problems there. Especially the same thing is if it's their only copy and that they go out of business or have a problem with your account, you can't get to it. Now, with that in mind, where should you keep files and documents, computer files and documents that have CSI in them? Where should those go? Where should those be kept? R drive, right? Why is the R drive a better fit for it than your C drive or USB drive? Backups. The R drive gets backed up at least every night. We got it backed up. Do you guys know where the R drive is? Is it on your desk next to your computer? Where's the R drive located? R drive is back in computer services in our data center. It's behind at least 2 locked doors. We've got Sandy monitoring the front door, and you're not going to get past Sandy. Some of you guys know that. She's got to stop you. You know, we have a better level of protection there. The hardware that we use, the hard drives, are more fault tolerant than the ones that are on your local computer. We have permissions in place. We have these other factors that make that R drive a better location for it. It's better protected. Now, you know, it's important when we're talking about CSI because for this presentation, it's all been about that confidentiality, is keeping that protected. There's real-world examples out there where they've made this files available, or they've gotten hacked into. You know, Maricopa had issues, and every week you got at Home Depot or healthcare systems have their stuff hacked. And you may have gotten the letter saying, hey, this is hacked. I've had 4 years of free credit monitoring because first Home Depot got hacked, and then this other Maricopa got hacked, and I got another year. And so, you know, it's one of those things where that costs them millions of dollars. The Maricopa's in the tens of millions of dollars that it's cost them to send out letters notifying people that there's been a problem, credit monitoring, et cetera, and it's hurt their reputation for the people. Do you want to go there knowing they haven't protected their system? If something were to happen to EAC like that, what would be the repercussions? Do we have the millions and millions of dollars in the bank to handle it like Maricopa? No, I mean, we can get insurance to do it, but what about the damage to our reputation? I mean, we would take a big hit. You know, it always seems we're fighting for our survival with the legislation and the other community colleges. We don't want to get them any ammunition to be against us. So it's very important that we kind of take these ideas and protect that data, because we're really protecting our jobs and our students. And a lot of us have current or past or future students coming to EAC, so we have a vested interest in that. Now, you know, kind of in closing, you know, we've talked about using your EAC computer and accounts just like you would a vehicle you check out for maintenance. So always put yourself in that mindset. Just like that, though, and Craig talked about, sometimes you have accidents. I mean, how many people here consider themselves good drivers? Pretty much everybody. How many here have never been in an accident? You know, you can be a good driver and still have been in an accident. Now, if you're in an accident every other week, yeah, it might be time to take your driver's license away. You're going to have accidents. You know, your insurance agent isn't going to judge you on that one accident. Same way computer services, let us know so we can either contain the problem, fix the problem, help you prevent the problem. So when you're thinking about in that concept of CSI, think about it like it's a pile of $1 million. You got $1 million. So CSI, would you leave that on your desk, $1 million just sitting on your desk? Hopefully not. You just wouldn't leave it on your desk. Would you leave it in the back of your car? No. You know, and you wouldn't send it in a box through UPS or the mail system, right? You know, you don't. And CSI is worth millions of dollars, as Maricopa can attest to. And when in doubt, call computer services. Anything regarding CSI, or we've always done it this way, or I just did this, what's the concern? I've got my iPad, what do I do on that? Call us, we're here to help you. Now, are there any questions about anything that we've done in our presentation?
So does anybody have access to put stuff on the R drive?
Yes, a lot of people think of the R drive as that commons. Oh, that's where I go just to get this form from HR. It's not. We've got a hierarchy in there which we can set up different departments, divisions, and we could say, hey, we need a folder for the nursing department, which I believe we have. I need a folder for just my stuff in there, acting as the assistant or whatever. Hey, I need that. I only want access to it, but that's where I'm going to store stuff as I work on it because it has CSI. Or it's not CSI, but it's mission critical, meaning that if I won the Powerball and walked away, I'd want my future replacement to have this information to do that job. We'll work with you on creating that structure on the R drive so it's there. And we can dial it down where it's only, hey, maybe I just want me and the division head have access to it. Or we need a spot where everybody in nursing can get to it, but nobody outside of it can. We can do those things.
And like, also you can do a shortcut on your desktop so you don't have to maneuver to it every time you need to save something.
Yeah, because it's really convenient to work on files from your desktop or your computer. So what I've done is I've moved a lot of those folders over to the R drive and I just have shortcuts to them on my desktop. And it's as if I'm working there. And I feel better protected too because I have a laptop. So if somebody took it, they'd click on the shortcut, they're not on campus, they don't have access to our drive, they don't have access to anything except my shortcut. Any other questions?
Jump drives. Somebody walks up and says, oh, I need to show you something, and they want to stick their jump drive in your computer. Can you get a virus off of that if they've got a virus?
You can, and that's a common hacking thing as well. So we have our anti-malware and antivirus that will scan that USB drive, but if you have any reservations about that, call computer services and we can help say, okay, here's the better way of doing that. Here's the better process for it. Or, hey, it's not a big deal because we have these defenses in place.
We have that in the media center a lot. We have people that want to copy, color copy, and we only put it on the staff computer. What's the precautions? Like, as soon as we put that flash drive on the computer, it's going to scan it?
Yeah, we would want to make sure, in that case, double check that the settings are set to scan that. The other concern there is, you know, a common hacker's attack is to take 20 USB drives with various malware loaded on them and then just drop them outside the entrance to a restaurant or to the media center out in the grass, and somebody says, hey, free flash drive. And they come in, plug it into their work computer, and boom, it goes.
We do not open flash drives. If someone leaves one in the library, we do not open them. We just hold them, and if someone comes in and says, you know, my life is on this flash drive, do you have it? Hopefully it's the right one, but we don't open it.
Yeah, so in some ways we could set something up on that print over there where we have a computer completely segregated from our general network, and it would be froze, and that could be used to facilitate, okay, it's copied, anything goes weird, you reboot, and by it being froze, it would come back in condition. So we'd want to take.
What I usually do is I have some little thumb drives that Patty's given us, and I just tell them, here, go save your picture on this thumb drive, because I know what's on that thumb drive. There's nothing. And so they save that one picture, they bring it over, and then I put it on, because I'm trying to avoid that.
No, and that's good. And let me ask, is that the most convenient way of doing it? I mean, it's real convenient just to take their USB drive and plug it in and go, hey, job done. But you're right, you've added a little bit of inconvenience there, but you've added a second layer of defense to our anti-malware, antivirus scanning, so it's great. And that might be just the process. We go through these 2 additional steps. Yes, it adds 2 minutes to it, but we get more than 2 minutes worth of security out of it. So any situations like that, we'd work with you on.
I just give the students the excuse that, yeah, it's kind of hard to find it on your thumb drive. Just put the one thing on this thumb drive, and they're more hospitable about doing it.
No, that's great. You've kind of, it's just not a hoop I have to jump through. You've kind of explained why. And maybe in their mind as well, it's kind of making sense, and they're like, maybe I should start doing this when my friend gives me their USB drive, because that used to be a really, really big way that it spreads. Before antivirus and those stuff started kind of really scanning that at boot up before it mounted it. Any other questions?
One real quick one. Like you're talking about other people using the same computer, they're logged in under their name, like a work study. If they get compromised, like a virus or something, does that just affect their account, or does it affect your whole computer?
Yes and no. There's certain viruses or malware that will only affect their profile, and the rest of them remain untouched. There are other ones that affect the whole machine. There's other ones that all they care is about getting on that computer because they can spread them throughout the network. So in those cases where you've got more than one account on the same machine, we want to take precautions to protect the accounts from each other, because you don't want them jumping over in your account for whatever reason, get whatever files. And then other considerations as well. Hey, do they have training? Do they understand how important it is for this computer to be treated as EAC property? Okay, we're right a little bit over time. I want to thank you all for coming here for our first presentation of this. You've been a great crowd and had some great answers. Thank you.